back. So I think the next step that I want to do is kind of change this view right here when I add a new customer, because that doesn't look that pretty right now. So the first step I want to do is kind of just change these into actually being the input fields like we see here in Materialize, where you get these beautiful hover effects, stuff like that. When you don't have anything, it'll change into this hover effect looking something like this, right? How do we do it? Well, I'm just going to try and start out with having a look at their code right here. It seems it's just a basic form they have, and then they're adding a form field to kind of wrap the input fields. So I'm just going to grab this example right here with the form field. This is just an input field where this is a text area. In my case, I just want to change and work with input fields for now. So jumping into my code, this is how it looks right now, the code. You have a form group, right? And there you have a label, and then you have the input text. And how should the new code then look to start using this new setup right here? Now, first of all, I have to let you guys know that if you jump into app module, you have to add mat input module, right? I already added that. Now, if you are in doubt, go to API and I'll actually show you right away what you need to kind of add to start using the input, right? So I added that input module right here, and that pretty much means that now in the customer app, I can start adding stuff like this. And the first one I want to add is this guy. And I'll just, again, I just copied in every piece of code I just got in that example. And I'm just going to, here the input seems to just have, my input just has the type of text and then the form control name. So I'm going to use that again. Then it has a label. We don't need that anymore. Instead, we need the first name to be the placeholder. So I'll just put that in here. I don't want to use their example of how to make full length. I'm going to use our flex layout in a second. So I'll just get rid of that for now. And then the value sushi, we don't need that because we don't need a value for now. It's just going to be blank when you kind of open this because we want to create a new customer. Now the final thing is, it seems we need the form control. So let's just copy that down here as well. And that pretty much means that this is being converted into this to give you the other look and feel. Let's just get rid of this guy and try and save this and show you guys the new solution right here and how it looks. So now you'll see this hover effect. That's all I had to do, right? And I'll of course go and do the same for the other fields. So we have the last name. We'll just put that into the placeholder right here. We have the form control of last name, and it's a mat input. That's all we had to change. And we'll do the same for the address down here. Address. Let's just put that there, and the address, let's just put that there. There we go. So now we have all the form controls ready to look more like, don't worry about the layout yet. We'll figure that out. But right now we have the form controls looking kind of amazing, right? Now we need to talk about the buttons. Let's have a look at the buttons. Jumping down to buttons right here, and it's the example. I want to have a primary button for the save part. So let's just try and open this and have a look. Raised buttons, primary, this is going to be my save button right here. So let's just grab that, jump into the code, and add that to my save button. And again, I'm not changing anything except I'm just adding something to my buttons to make them look prettier, right? Jumping back to see if that worked. There we go, we have the beautiful save button. I want this to be a mini fab, just like we had in the customer list. Let's try and add that. Whoops, I need to go into buttons first and find the mini fab all the way down here. And I want that to just be a primary mini fab for now, just like the other one was. So I'm just going to add that to this button up here. I'll save it and let's have a look. Now it says back, and that almost can't be there. We'll get icons later, but for now I'm just going to add this simple arrow right here to kind of show a back button like that. That's okay. So now we have this. Now we just need to kind of lay it out. But this is a good start, right? Now we can actually, it's already looking a lot more shiny. But I want more. I want more. I want to start using our flex layout. But again, you have to kind of look at the difference right here, because we just added the Angular material stuff to our labels, right? Or to our input fields, right? So they look like this now. So we just added some styling. Now we need to lay them out so it looks better than what we have right now. So let's start looking at layout. So now we are talking about laying our components out. And the first thing I want to do is add, like, let's just have a look. I want to add a column layout like we did on the customer list, so that we have the button at the first row and then the actual customers. I want to do the same thing. I want the button at the first row, and then I want to add something in here with a card or something. Sweet. Jumping back to the code, let's just start out again by adding the outermost div. There we go. And that outermost div is going to be a column layout, right? And I want that guy to just pretty much grab all available space. So I'll fill him. There we go. Then I'll go down here and just place him down here. The other thing that I might want is just to add a bit of margin like we did before between each component. So we'll say fx layout gap 10 pixels. So now that would mean again there's margin between each component. So if I go back now, you'll see there's margin right here, right? So just to give a bit of space. Sweet. So now we have that layout, and I feel that every time I start something, a layout, it's just easier, at least as a beginning, to just add a div, right? So now I'll just add a div to kind of wrap my button right here. And again, I actually don't need this, but again, to get started, I'm just going to give this guy a layout of row, just to kind of explain that this is going to be a row layout. As I start getting more buttons, I want those to be placed in a row. Let's have a look. There we go. No changes right now. But if I add more button, you would see again, like before, they would start showing up in a row. So now we add the form right here. We need to figure out how to actually show the form. Now we could start actually per field, define the size and the placement and stuff like that. But I think I'm just going to start out by adding a card right here. So I'm adding a mat card right here in the outermost layer. Now that mat card is going to contain our entire form like this. Let's just have a look again. There we go. Now we have a card. Now I want that mat card to actually inside this guy. I want it to let's actually add a div right here. That's also going to be an FX layout row, right? Because I want that card to be placed in a row. Because now the goal for me right here is to explain to the card that I want this guy to be centered. So first, let's just align this to center. That's the vertical part, and then let's say top, right? To kind of say that I want this to be centered and placed at the top. Notice how simple that was. Now it actually starts aligning these guys. So that's amazing. Now we have placed this in the center, and I can actually on the card now, because I added that extra layout, I can actually define the size of the card. And let's just keep it as right now. No, let's give it a size. Let's just say FX flex, and I'm just going to give this guy 33 for now. So I'll just force it. And notice right away it starts aligning these guys, but I want these guys to be kind of one per row, right? So let's jump back here, because now the next thing I can see is inside my form, I want to have another div. And how do we want to align these guys? So you can just pause the video if you want to, but we want to align these guys like in a column, right? Vertically. So we're just going to convert this into an FX layout of column. It's that simple. And then hopefully these guys will now be aligned like this. Now I have my button down here. Notice that's kind of annoying, because the button should not be this big button. It could be, it's just a choice, right? But I decided that I want my button to be a small button all the way over here. So let's just try and figure that out as well. So again, I'm adding a div around the button. It's not necessary, it's just easy for me to kind of focus on what's layout and what's kind of components, right? And I want this guy to have, what should we do? We need to kind of align this guy and center, right? To kind of place him in the end of the horizontal layout and as centered. As you start working more and more with this layout, and if you start getting kind of an overview about how you want to place things, it starts making sense, a lot of it. Now there's still things that I'm not that fond of using yet, but it starts making more and more sense. Now of course this is just for plain text fields, right? All of this is text right now, but later we can start adding drop downs, boxes, stuff like that. It's just adding styling to our input field. So it's really not that tough to work with, to be honest. So that's it. Now we actually added a new nicer looking add customer thing right here, and it seems to be working. So that's it for this lesson. See you next time. Have fun.